right? Yeah.
There we go. Great. So as you guys heard, as everybody heard, we are going to record this session for those of us who aren't able to make it so that they can watch it later. I'm Cindy Vosberg, Executive Director of the Crescent City Del Norte Chamber of Commerce. And as always, I'm very honored to be here with all of you today. Thank you for coming and spending the next hour with us. For just a little bit of housekeeping, we're going to do about 20 to 25 minutes of Mr. Wolf. Chuck Wolf will give us a presentation, and then we will go to questions and answers. And there's two ways that you can ask your questions. One of them is you can raise your hand, and that is located at the bottom. I'm sure everybody's already old pros at Zoom because we've been doing it now for a while. But you can raise your hand, and then Mr. Weir will unmute you and allow you to ask your question live, or you can put it in the chat. And the chat is also located at the bottom of your screen, just as Susan put in a question just a few seconds ago. So the one thing that you want to make sure of when we're responding in the chat to everybody is that we type to everyone. As you, our audience, attendees, place your questions. If you want it to just come to the host and panelists, your question, you would specify that. Otherwise, you can do it to everyone, and then your fellow attendees can see what you're asking as well. So I would like to thank the city staff for being here with us today. Bridget and Linda, thank you so much. You both are very critical parts of this program. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Mr. Weir at this point. Thank you.
All right, excellent, Cindy, and definitely appreciate you and the chamber hosting this this webinar and really allowing us to try to get this information out on really what is a unique opportunity. This pandemic has certainly put our businesses through a lot of stress and strain, and the regulations and all of those things that our business owners have had to try to go through and comply with, and the twists and turns, but certainly feels that we are starting to come out of it. And as we come out of it, what it's going to allow for is it's going to allow for a lot of opportunities, and that's what this is. This is an opportunity for our businesses because of some of the government money that has been set aside to create resiliency, to create a pathway forward, so we can really spring out of this and be better than what we were before. And that's what's before us today. So this is it's a grant. Technically it's a business loan program, but it's a forgivable loan, and that's what makes this so unique. And so really what you'll hear from is you're going to hear from Chuck Wolf. Chuck is with Claggett Wolf and Associates. He has owned his own business. He's also been one of the primary authors of this program through CDBG, and CDBG is Community Development Block Grant is what is providing this funding. The city has also reached out, and we're partnering with the county. So we have an agreement with the county. So this doesn't just have to be businesses that are in the city. This is any business in Del Norte County is who is eligible for this. So that is also what's really exciting. And Chuck will give you the details of it, but this is a forgivable loan opportunity. So basically a grant for businesses to spring forward. Bridget Lacey is our accountant here at the city, and she's also been one of the key people in acquiring this. And so she is going to be a key contact. And that's really the main thing with this is we want to get the information out, and then we want businesses to take the next steps and really figure out, is this an opportunity for them as a business to take this next step? And that's what we want to do with today, and then also moving forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Wolf. Chuck, take it away. Okay.
Well, welcome everyone. And I guess you can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thank everyone for taking the time to participate today. My name is Chuck Wolf. I'm the president of Claggett Wolf Associates, but we're part of a team. And the team consists of our firm as well as the Arcadia EDC, as well as the North Coast Small Business Development Center. So collectively, we're here both to run the program, but also to be there to assist you through the program. And I'll stress it a number of times because this has been mentioned is a fairly unique program. We've all gone through a fairly trying period over the last couple of years. I myself have had 5 different businesses that I've started, 3 successful, 2, let's say, maybe not as. Gone through some recessions, and it's a challenging time. And our goal here is to be there for you and to address what your needs are, and then try to work within the confines of the federal and state regulations that are applying to this community development block grant funding to see if we can get you a forgivable loan. So with that, let me get started. What we're going to talk about this session is basically just the program itself, the overview, who's eligible to apply, what are the eligible uses of funds, what's the application process and the timing of that process, what are the requirements for loan forgiveness, and then next steps. And then we'll get into Q&A. So with that, really the program itself we've already touched on is this funding came to the city of Crescent City and covers all of Del Norte County. The funding was provided through the Community Development Block Grant Program through a grant to the city of Crescent City. And the specific aspects of forgivable loans is tied to having a COVID-related tie to the funding itself. We in the round 1, which is what we're opening now, there's going to be $250,000 in loan funds available. And that's what we'll be looking at for this next period, and we'll be talking through that. There will be subsequent rounds. And so we're going to be launching with this first round. So who's eligible? We really have 2 categories, and it's more of the classifications that go with the federal funding requirements. The first one on the left-hand side are microenterprises where the owner is income eligible. And that's basically a business with 5 or fewer employees. And in this case, that's part-time and full-time, where the owner is one of the active employees of the business. The owner there must be income qualified, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got a slide to talk about that. The business must have a physical location in Del Norte County. This would also include home-based businesses. If there's a business that just has a presence in the form of a PO box, that would not qualify as a physical presence. But if you live in the county and operate out with a PO box, that would be eligible. So just to clarify that. There must have been some impact by COVID, and we'll talk through some of those things because it's surprising how many different things are impacting businesses through COVID, both in terms of the past and actually even currently. In that group, it would be eligible for a forgivable loan up to $50,000. On the right side, we have businesses that are going to be creating or retaining jobs. Creating means these are new jobs. They're going to be filled with new employees or rehired employees where you may have laid people off. Retained jobs are those that basically without additional funding, you're at risk of losing established employees or positions. So that funding is available for for-profit and nonprofit businesses. The businesses have to be less than 25 employees, and those are full-time equivalent employees, which would be, we can work with you if you've got a bunch of part-time people that might push you above that number. But that also is currently or on March 1st of 2020. You must also have a physical presence in Del Norte County. There must be an impact from COVID. You must create or retain those jobs by June of 2020. And as I said, we'll talk, or 2022, excuse me, and we'll talk about that a little further. That in that group is eligible for up to $100,000 in forgivable loan funding. That would be up to $50,000 for each job, full-time equivalent job created or retained. So what can you use this for? I know from the work that we've already done in the county, and we have been working with businesses all over the state, there's a lot of past due payments due. These funds can be used for past due payments to vendors for materials that you might be using to produce products or provide your services. It also could be used for vendors that basically you're using for production or service delivery costs. This may be you're paying for shipping with a UPS, or one of my businesses, we had uniforms, and so Aramark was a vendor of ours. Also, you can do past due rent, mortgage payments for owner-occupied commercial property, and then for utilities. If it's a home-based business, unfortunately, we cannot pay for mortgages for a home, a residence. If you have a dedicated space on your property, let's talk about that. And we can get into that in a little more detail on a one-on-one basis. The last is other past due operating expenses. This might be insurance, telephone expenses, equipment leases, any other expenses that are currently past due. And these would be things that are past due based on the inability of the business to pay for these things due to the impacts of COVID. Other eligible uses are we can actually repay short-term high-interest debt. That would be debt with interest rate of 12% or greater, taken out to cover business expenses due to COVID. And that would be debt that must be repaid in less than 12 months. And that, once again, the tie-in there is to cover business expenses, 1. 2, those expenses and the debt was incurred during COVID. The other is to repay funds borrowed from personal savings or personal retirement accounts to cover expenses due to COVID impacts. And I know from one of the earlier programs we ran in the county, there was one business we talked to where they had taken money out of their retirement account just to keep the business operating. Those are the ones where we are in a position, if we can clearly delineate that those funds were used to cover business expenses, that we can pay and provide funding to return those funds. Other eligible uses of funds would be up to 6 months of anticipated increased costs of materials or supplies you use to produce your products or services. I know right now with all the supply chain issues and some of the businesses we've been working with, restaurants are seeing increases in their produce, meats, and a lot of people, other supplies, the costs are going up. And so what we look at here is, are there going to be shortfalls based on what you can charge? And those funds can be used, these funds can be used to cover those costs. We can also cover costs of up to 6 months of regular operating expenses, once again, that you would not, or you do not anticipate having the funds to cover due to sales from sales revenue. We get down into then more hard items. Purchase of furniture as the weather starts getting colder. As people, if you have had outdoor seating, you might need outdoor heaters, or you may even need tables or updated tables to be outside. Purchasing fixtures that would be responding to COVID or preparing. Once again, both of these are for responding or preparing for future COVID impacts or other disasters that could impact your business's ability to survive. And the last would be purchasing equipment, including software, needed to respond to COVID. For example, touchless payment processes, online ordering, or online sales software. Those would be eligible uses if they're going to respond to COVID and help you be survive or be more responsive to the market in a COVID type of situation. The application process and the timing, well, right now we're opening up phase 1, and this is for round 1. That will be basically used to determine your eligibility based on the federal and state CDBG requirements. The applications will be accepted online. It's open right now and through the 10th of December, Friday at midnight. Throughout this process, I want to just reiterate, there's assistance available at no cost to you, whether it be from our staff, from North Coast SBDC. The key is that we can help you if you have any questions or need assistance in understanding or collecting information. All applications submitted during this period will be accepted. This is not a first come, first served process. And if round one is oversubscribed, all eligible applicants will be placed in a pool, and a random selection process will be used to choose businesses that will be invited to complete a phase 2 application. If you are eligible in phase 1 and were not selected for round 1, you will automatically be put into and entered into the pool for round 2. Some guidance in round 1. There's a series of questions. The application, our experience has been, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes, but there are a couple issues or things that you can do to prepare yourselves, just maybe gathering some information. Some things in terms of thinking about COVID. And these are not a all-inclusive list. These are just examples of things that you'll see and you can check as to things you experienced as a result of COVID. One is being the reduction in sales revenue for a comparable period of time between 2019 pre-COVID and 2020 or 2021. Otherwise, experiencing increased costs for materials to produce your products or delivering your services or operating your business, some of the things we just talked about. Experiencing supply chain disruptions that have limited your ability to produce products or provide services that once again have impacted your business's ability to remain profitable or to survive. You've actually closed your business due to state mandates or due to some of the social distancing issues for 3 or more months due to COVID-related mandates. You may have closed the business altogether due to COVID, and you're looking to reopen the same business or the same type of business. We can actually investigate and work with you in that situation. The one thing is, as I said, you don't have to comply with each one of the items that you'll see in the application. You just have to basically check those that apply, and then we'll be using those. And during phase 2, we may request additional information to validate those points that you've checked. The microenterprise ownership verification is one of those items that on that left-hand column we talked about in terms of microenterprise where the owner is income eligible. In doing that, basically the best thing for you to do is, one, collect page 1 of your personal 2020 federal tax returns for each family member living in your home. And a family member is considered someone that is related by marriage, blood, or adoption, and includes students that might be away at college, but they're a dependent. Once you have those sheets in front of you, just add the amounts of the adjusted gross income on line 11, and you can see that in the figure below. But it's basically circled in red, and add that together for every individual that earned income during that 2020 period. And then compare it to the amounts that you've calculated to the amounts that you'll see in that question in the application. For example, I put down an example at the bottom where the head of household was making $39,500 annually, and that's the number that was in line 11. The spouse in line 11 was filing separately and made $7,000. And then there was a student away at college. I can relate to that personally. And they made $3,500. Well, when you add the 3 of those together, it's a family of 3. And if you look over on the right, that family size of 3 with combined adjusted gross income was less than the $50,350. So this family would qualify under microenterprise if the business had 5 or fewer employees and the owner was an active participant in the business. So, application process, phase 2. Phase 2 will be used, and this will be, like you said, we're going to close phase 1 on the 10th, and then we'll be evaluating the applications, and then those that we are deemed eligible and selected will be moved into phase 2. During phase 2, we'll be using time and work with you to validate the information that you provided, to make sure we're on the same page. We're going to basically do a complete review of all your eligibility on federal and state CDBG requirements, the community development block grant requirements, including sometimes the criteria for loan forgiveness. Once again, we want to be interactive with you to make sure that as each step of the way, we're there, we're talking this through with you, and we all are on the same page. We'll also be collecting additional information that typically is required for a loan application. The applicants that are invited to move on to phase 2 will be notified by December 17th, and we'll have 8 weeks to complete the phase 2 application process. If during any time in that, once you've been invited, that you're unable to meet that deadline, or you choose to not continue, you just let us know and we'll move the next person up on the list if we did a random selection. Assistance will be provided at no cost during the entire process. That's either from our staff or from the staff of the Small Business Development Center. And so once again, we're there. If you have questions, we're there to help. And in contrary, it's not just going to say point to you to do things. We'll actually be walking you through each step of the process.
And so, Chuck,
So, yeah.
This is probably the slide that I was going to ask you a question on. So just so we're clear. So right now, right, you're calling phase 1, that is just this application in which I think it was Cindy or somebody just posted, looks like it was Layla, just posted the survey, right? Which is this application, right? That's what you're talking about, phase 1.
Yes.
And the slide in regard to the income and whatnot, that is only for the micro businesses, the small businesses less than 5 employees, right? That's the only time you have to worry about the income eligibility.
Correct.
Okay, and then so basically we want people to go in, take a look at the application, fill out the application. Then at that point in time, you're going to review all the applications. And then there will be some that after you deem if they're eligible or not, right, then they'd go into this phase 2.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. And you'll be notified. And if you are not invited, or if you are in the pool for round 2, you'll be notified of each of those, the determinations.
Okay.
And thank you, Eric. And this is what we basically, as I mentioned, phase 1, the application is about 20 minutes. Phase 2, you can anticipate about 20 to 40 hours of investment, depending on how aggregated your business information is, and how much detail we need to go through in terms of job creation, et cetera. The thing I always do as a business owner, like I said, I've done it 5 times. I always look at the fact of, what's the return on investment of my time? Is this really something I should do? Is it worth my time to do it? Well, just a brief example, if you think you might receive a $20,000 forgivable loan, and if you invest 40 hours, that's basically a rate of $500 an hour. Now, I know some people may not think that that's a good idea, but for me, I think I would take the time for $500 an hour. If that number gets forgivable loans higher, then that return per dollar per hour spent is pretty high. So I would just suggest think about that and think about both what you're trying to achieve with your business and how best to use your time and whether or not this is the right path. But I would just encourage you that time from a return on investment is pretty high. So, requirements for loan forgiveness. Basically, you have to meet one of those state and federal CDBG requirements. Either be a business that has 5 or fewer employees, or the owner meets that CDBG income requirement like we talked about on the one slide, or be a business that is going to create or retain at least 1 or 2 full-time equivalent jobs. And full-time equivalent is basically someone who works 30 hours a week for 52 weeks a year, including vacation. But that does not, you cannot create or retain a job that is an owner, just to clarify. So a startup would have to hire a employee You cannot count yourself as a created job in this situation. And it must be filled by individuals making less than $25 per hour, including tips and bonuses. The next is you're going to be required to prepare and submit monthly financial statements. This is a requirement by the state, but as part of the loan funding, we will provide the funds to cover the costs associated with this requirement. Whether or not you have to purchase software or hire a bookkeeper, these are all things that will be built in so that you'll have the support necessary to meet that requirement. You'll also have to meet with a member of our support team, whether a member of Claggett Wolf's team or the North Coast Small Business Development Center, for about an hour a month to go over your financials, see how you're doing, discuss any issues you have, any changes that might have occurred, and if necessary, get additional no-cost assistance so that we can help you through this transition and evolution. Because the focus here is about resiliency and long-term sustainability. And the last thing is that you use the forgivable loan funds for what was stated in your application. If things change, and I know as a business owner, things change. If there is going to be a change in how you're going to spend the funds, all we ask is let us know and we'll review that. And if necessary, get approval from our loan committee to change that use. With that, next steps. We just encourage you to complete the online phase 1 application for round 1 by midnight, Friday, December the 10th. And this actually, you can actually complete the application on a smartphone. It's set up to do that. If the business will not be creating jobs and you would like to be considered for microenterprise set aside, I just suggest begin collecting that information, the 2020 personal tax returns for all family members living in your home, because that if you have that all in one place, it's really quick then to just complete the application. If you have any questions on the program itself, you can contact Bridget Lacey from the city of Crescent City, and here's her contact information. She's the point of contact with the city. If you need assistance for the program itself in terms of the application process, you can contact us either via email at info@claggettwolf.com or text assistance to 530-613-5818, and one of our staff will get back to you. Based on your answers into a few questions, you may be directed to contact me directly to talk through your situation. Once again, we're here to help, and having gone through, and like I say, as a business owner, I know there's all kinds of things we each face as owners. And our objective here is to try to understand what you're going through and see how we can help and hopefully get you one of these forgivable loans. And with that, we can move to Q&A.
That sounds really good. And there are lots of questions in the chat, and we'll let Cindy moderate those. But as far as getting the application, so the application link is in the chat, so you can, those of you that are here can find it there, and you'll be able to find it after this webinar on the city's webpage. And so if you go to that, it's crescentcity.org. There's a link right on City News right here. That's this business assistance program. So if you click on that, that will take you to a link where you will see the phase 1 application. And then also, if you needed to come back and refer to this webinar, we will have links to the video. So this is the video from last night, and then this Zoom link will be replaced with the actual video once we're completed here.
Great, that's wonderful. So again, we're going to be answering the questions that you have. There's 2 ways to answer a question or ask a question. And one is in the chat, and we have a number of those that we're going to go through right now. The other way is to raise your hand. So anybody who wants to ask a live question, feel free to raise your hand, and Eric will unmute you, and we'll go from there. So we have Chuck, we have Val has asked, how about renovations to actual business location to help respond to COVID? So would that be one of the the eligible forgivable portions of the loan?
Unfortunately, anything that involves construction with federal dollars triggers prevailing wage and requires a higher level of environmental clearance. And because of the type of funding we have, that we are not going to be dealing with those types of uses with these funds.
So regular actual renovations to the building would not be covered?
No,
Just upgrades to perhaps that's within it would be?
Yeah, because we basically would, in order that they'd have to actually have an outside firm do an environmental review. There's prevailing wage triggered on that, which then raises the cost. We have to do labor standards. There's all kinds of administrative and requirements to do that. And because of the limited amount of money that's available, we're not going to be funding that kind of activity.
But now, Chuck, adding tables, chairs, furniture for expansion within your business, right? Those are eligible.
Those are all eligible. Yeah, furniture, any kind of fixtures that does not require significant installation, those are all eligible.
So even like additions to say stove, different things like that, as you're where then you might need to hire additional employees because your business is now expanding. Those things would be eligible.
Correct. And for example, a new point of sale system that might allow for touchless payment is one type of example like that. And I can say, if we look at all the different things, I could tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years and we are very creative when it comes to making sure that, one, we comply with the federal regulations and the state guidelines. But as a business owner myself, the key is to get you as much money as we can within that framework.
That's where
Wonderful.
We would just, like to encourage, fill out this application, get in contact with Chuck, with Bridget, right? See if, talk through some of these things, because there are nuances with all these. We do have to comply with the state and federal regs, but they are fairly broad and with this particular use of funds.
Great. So from Susan, she says, I opened Stumble and Relish May 1st, 2021. Do you have to be in business a year or longer to qualify?
No. If it's a recent start, and that's a recent start, we would just would be looking for, and I think what you'll see is do you have enough information, business plan, financial projections, so that we can actually assess where you are. And then the COVID impact, pretty much, I think you're probably experiencing that just like everyone else. So if there's a question, and if you go through the application and for some reason you don't get through because of the way, we can only ask the questions so many different ways. I would say in those situations, feel free to reach out to us and we can actually walk you through and discuss your situation in more detail to see if we can make it so that you would qualify.
Thank you, Chuck, and Susan. So we have from Angela, for nonprofits, would loss of income from annual fundraising events that were canceled due to COVID count as lost income?
Yes. The key with a
Excellent.
nonprofit would be the either the creation or retention of jobs. But yes, that what you just stated would qualify.
Great. And from Heidi, we have a question. Why is there a limit on the hourly salary being $25 per hour? Sadly, this won't help hiring professional positions.
Basically, the federal regulations require they're structured such that the jobs are filled by what they consider to be low to moderate income individuals. And that's where that threshold comes in, that dollar threshold. That comes from the federal government. And so it is correct. This program is not designed, and these funds are not designed to support the hiring of the higher level professionals.
That is sadly, yes. So from Angela, we have, will the slide deck be sent out after the webinar? And I think the answer to that, Angela, is that as Eric just showed you on the city website, he's posting the recording of the webinar. And so if you check, if somebody doesn't want to go there, but would like to receive your actual presentation, can they provide us with their email and can you send it out to them?
Yeah, just if you'd like a copy of that, just send an email to the info@clagawolf.com and just say, please send slide deck and we'll forward you a copy.
Great. From Susan, we have a question, which is a great question. Could you go over how to calculate employees? We have 8 employees part-time, 30 hours a week in a seasonal business, March through mid-October. I thought you said employees retained and are created. So how would that calculate?
Okay, and I would say that would be something that I would suggest you contact us directly and we'll walk you through that because it's not a simple answer. We have a formula, we have actually a spreadsheet, we can put the numbers in and do that calculation for you. But to describe it on this call would, I think we might put some people to sleep. So.
Great, thank you, Chuck. You're so great. So from we have from Patty, how long would that $25 per hour requirement have to have to last?
Basically, upon hiring, when we do it would be for the period that of forgiveness, that person would have to have started at that rate. And basically, you can't just hire them and like a week later bump it up. It's basically a 3-month minimum. They would be at that rate. But we've got to be careful about trying to sort of skirt the regs that sometimes I know I get creative at times, but the key here is the hope is long-term that people make more than that. But the positions as we're dealing with this, and when we come and certify, we actually have to certify those positions and we'll be looking at your payroll data. It would be for that period that they would have to be making, they would have started for less than that and the average over that period of time. So it's not immediate. You can't just hire them one day and then give them a raise the next day.
Okay, great. You guys, I have to tell you, this group is very creative, right? And you guys have some wonderful questions. So we have another question here from Drea. Is there anywhere else that the CDBG income requirements are posted?
On the state of California Housing and Community Development block website, if you would have a very hard time. If you want a link to that, that'd be fine. I can also send you, if you want to send a email to the info@clagawolf.com, we can send you the annual income table for the entire state, which lists what you'll see. The actual numbers for that income eligibility are in the application.
And Drea, and Amanda also has them in your office.
Did you get that, Andrea? Great. So, and so would anybody like to ask any live questions? All you need to do is raise your hand. I know that Chuck is doing a wonderful job of answering all of our questions. I think that last night, I had a couple questions for him that one of them was as far as, hold on a moment. So the program, so can somebody, as far as hiring a job or retaining a job, what time frame does that cover? And can that split over calendar years? Say some of it be in 2020 and some of it in 2021, or some of it in 2021 and some of it in 2022? Can it split a year?
Yeah, and basically what we have to look at is, what we're trying to set is that the job would be filled by June of 2022. It can cross over, and we will, if for whatever, because I know a lot of people are having difficulty finding people right now. If you do qualify and there are job openings that you are going to be filling, then we can work with you in terms of the timing of those hirings and adjust as necessary. So it's not there's a lot of variability, I guess. And the thing is, I would say, if you have a certain situation, especially with the seasonality issue, get through the program, get through the application. If you are qualified, let's talk about it. We'll see what we can do to make it work.
Great. So we have a couple more questions in the window that I'm going to read out. I just want to take a moment and thank the city and the team, the wonderful team that works for our city of Crescent City. Without them, these funds would not be available to us. Along with this, they do a lot of other things that have helped us get some funds. They were a big part of from the Economic Resiliency Task Force all since COVID started, with getting us some of the funds for the stabilization loans and the rent forgiveness loans. And so thank you, Eric, and your wonderful team. We've got a question from Susan, which is $250,000 is not a lot of money for the number of businesses participating today. How soon would additional funds be available?
We would anticipate the round 2 beginning in probably the February timeframe, because we'll have figured out through phase 1. It's going to be, and like you say, we're going to try to get through this. If people respond quicker, we can, get through the funding for phase 2. We're giving 8 weeks, but if people are really motivated to move that up, we can move, and then we will know what's available for round 2.
Wonderful. So Chuck, Jennifer is asking, if accepted, when do funds become available?
I think funds should be available by the time we get through the application submission. We do our review, it goes to loan committee. We should be early spring.
Okay.
Then just to sort of clarify on the funding amount, the city's total grant should hopefully allow for another 250,000 or so in the next round. So that's kind of what we're thinking dollar wise.
Yeah, sorry.
So Eric, if we go through this 500,000 or 550,000, whatever it ends up being, are there more funds down the pipe that may come our way?
It's something that we've certainly discussed, and Chuck, I know you've been in contact with CDBG. Can you maybe enlighten us all on that one?
Yeah, there has been, let's put it, the regulations allow for them to provide us with additional funds, but with all of the demands around COVID, et cetera, they have not. The last guidance we got was that they were unsure of whether or not we could secure additional funds. But if we do move the money, we can at least go back and ask for more funding.
And that's been the situation with this particular program is this is the first of its kind, and really it's the first rollout. Is that correct, Chuck, that you're
Yes.
aware of in the state? Is that right?
Yes.
And so, we are kind of the pilot program on it, but that's because we've been pushing it, and Chuck has been sort of, the architect and also pushing the state to release these funds, give us guidelines and whatnot. And so as we go through it, as we get the money out, I think they're going to see that this is a really successful model. And our hope is that at that point that they will allocate more funds, and that there'll be other communities that will have these opportunities for their businesses too.
Okay, so we've got a couple more questions here that we're going to give to Chuck and the city. So from Chris, we have business owned by a partnership / 2 brothers. Do both owners need to be actively working the business to qualify?
No. And we would basically look at ownership interest. So we can look at that in a little bit more detail, but They both do not have to be actively involved. And on the job side, actually, if it's a job creation, it's only microenterprise where a business owner has to be actively involved. And it's basically one owner has a 51% or greater ownership interest, has to be actively involved.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. So we have another question here, which is from Drea. Well, actually, Angela says, what's the timeline for loan forgiveness? Great
Basically,
question.
okay, basically would be if you are qualified as a micro enterprise, it is 3 months. If you are creating or retaining a job, that job has to be filled for at least 3 months. And then the term of the loan. We're going to extend financing for a period of time to allow you to use the money effectively for your business. So if the loan is a 6-month loan for working capital to supplement shortfalls, then the forgiveness would be to the end of that 6-month period.
Okay, great. So from Drea, we have, will the loan cover the costs for paying the employee as well as purchasing materials, supplies, and operating costs?
The big answer is yes.
Yay. That's wonderful. That's great. So Chuck, I see Layla Roberts with the North Coast SBDC is here in the attendees. Eric, can we bring Layla up and see if since her and her team will be a big part of the support of this program and helping all of us navigate the ins and outs. Layla, are you there that we can bring you up? There she is. And Layla, you can unmute yourself.
There we go. It looks like we finally launched. Good morning, everyone. So I don't know that I necessarily need to add anything material. Chuck is our expert, and we are so grateful to Bridget and Chuck for navigating this valuable and complicated, but ultimately really important grant program. And the only thing that I would add is that when you find yourself entering into the application process, I hope that you're going to notice that the requirements for getting through the application are actually a lot simpler than many of the past pandemic financing opportunities. I have been pleasantly surprised. I went through the survey myself, and it's just, okay, this is true or it's not true. It's not that big a deal, just yay or nay. The second thing that comes to mind as I think about this is as we're working with Chuck and his team on, not just getting you through the application process, but earning forgiveness for those loans. I see that there's an opportunity for you to make use of a taxpayer-funded resource that's yours anyway. So just think about, you're sitting down together with your SBDC business advisor. You've gotten your money and you're looking at your financials with your consultant, and you're having conversations how to make the best use of the money, having conversations about how to keep adapting to this pandemic situation, how to take advantage of business revenue and growth opportunities. The idea is that, you get through the review of the financials and you get forgiveness on your loan and you figure out how to hire the people you need to hire. And also, you have a relationship then with a consultant who is, there to help you with your next expansion loan, there to help you with your hiring process, there to make sure that if you need to come back in a year and say, oh my God, I really hate the QuickBooks systems I'm using, I need help figuring out another one, you've got a relationship. So we're looking at it for the long term, but we're really, really grateful that the city of Crescent City and Claggett Wolf have taken leadership on figuring this out and being the first in the state to bring this money to Crescent City and Del Norte. I don't know if you've got any questions, but that's, that's sort of what's top of mind for me.
And let me just also, one of the things that I know people have sometimes concerns about their confidential personal business information. And you'll note that basically both the North Coast SBDC, ourselves, and Arcadia EDC work continually with confidential information, and none of your information that you submit, it will be coming directly to us. It will not be going to the city or county. So it is truly confidential. And we have systems in place that we abide by to ensure that confidentiality. So I just want to, let you all know. And like I say, we Clagga Wolf have been doing this for 31 years. And I know the SBDCs have very strict guidelines, and Arcadia EDC is very similar. They've run 6 or 7 different funding programs, all of which require confidential information.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. I think you guys are kind of like part of the team, but not on the payroll, right? So we can all benefit from you. So unless there's more questions, I would like to see if Mr. Weir would like to address us with any last words.
You would think after 2 years of Zoom would have this unmute thing down. Just want to thank the businesses for coming out, spending time with us today. Being a part of this community, going through everything that they've gone through over the pandemic. Just unbelievable courage, resiliency, patience. All of those things. And so as we start to hit some of these other pieces, let's try to take advantage as much as we possibly can. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll post that link one more time in the chat to the survey. That's the first step, and then we can kind of see where it goes. But that's the main thing. It's just a big thank you to the community. And as always, as you see things, or if there's things you want to talk to the city about, you can always contact us here at City Hall. This is a really unique program. Let's take full advantage of it, and let's see where it takes us. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I hope that you had your questions answered, and that I took the survey yesterday. I helped test it for Chuck, and it took me, 15 minutes max, and he actually used the application Survey Monkey. So it's mostly multiple choice that you're filling in, and is very easy to take and unintimidating. So thank you, Chuck, for that.
Thank everyone for participating today, and hopefully we'll see some applications from you.
Wonderful. So it's now 12:26 and it's a wrap. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.